Hi everybody, welcome back to Precision Economics. Let's talk about supply. Today in this session, we'll talk about the meaning of supply, factors that affect supply of goods and services, and compare types of supply, analyze elasticities of supply. So let's begin with supply. Of course, this car, wherever it's made, how does it get to you? Or let's talk about wherever it's from, who made it, who came up with this car. So it is the quantity of good or service that producers are willing and able to sell at a given price. So this car has a price and somebody is willing to sell it or make it and provide it to you as consumers. So let's go at the factors that affect supply. Of course, this is your regular video games that you guys love. So what factors affect your supply of these things? Number one is the price of the game of the PS5 itself. Number two is the cost of producing this PS5. Why would anybody want to sell this to you? You have to consider the price that is going to sell it to you. They're also going to look at the cost of making this game itself. And they're going to look at the level of technology because sometimes technology is not very advanced. Many years ago, this was not made. We had games like PS1, we have PS2, PS3 is advancing gradually. Over time, we'll make better, sophisticated games than this. Of course, number four is number of producers. These are not the only producers of games. Apart from Sony, we have Nintendo, we have some other brands as well. And expectation of a future change in price. Producers also look at the price and target it for the future. So if the price is going to increase in the future, I want to sell more. If it's not going to increase in the future, I want to sell less. Who wants to sell things that the prices are going down? Of course not. You make less profit. And of course, the last one is government regulations and policies. Government can also influence how much of this is sold in any country. Even Nigerian today comes up with a much more better game. Of course, we've done that already. We have Ludo. Ludo is a much more better game compared to this console. But I'm just saying that's my opinion. But regardless, if the Nigerian government says we want to promote Ludo instead of promoting PS5 so that our kids can concentrate on their academics more and pass their exams, then therefore we can ban this from their country, then the supply of these games would reduce in Nigeria. Hopefully they do that. So let's talk about the types of supply. So we have composite supply, which is the first one. So composite supply is talking about just one supply that does like for many things. It does a whole lot of things. So an example is this cow. From this cow, you can supply milk, you can supply the meat, and supply a lot of things from this cow. And another one is competitive supply, which is talking about they have alternatives for this supply. In producing this, you can also produce other things as well. Then one more we can have is joint supply. This is from the same source. If you have meat, you can also produce belt. You can have like belts made from leather of cows, as long as with the beef. So we're going to talk about elasticity of supply right now. This is the formula right here. And from this place, we can draw graphs showing these different types of elasticity. So let's start with the easiest one, which is talking about inelastic supply, which means no matter the change in price, this time around, let's go with price, label our axis correctly. Imagine it is vertical like this, and we have S. So no matter the change in the price of goods and services, let's say P1 to P2, Q will always be the same. No matter what it is, let's call this Q0. It will always be the same, no matter the change in price. And this, what we call this is perfectly inelastic supply. Okay, good. So what if we have another graph like this? We have P and we have Q. And this time around is horizontal, once again, supply curve. The price remains the same, the price is not changing, but supply is changing over time. Don't forget, this is called price elasticity. So what we're dealing with is price and supply. So let's say this changes from Q1 to Q2 and goes all the way back to Q3. With this, we know that no matter the change, there's no change in price, but supply keeps changing. And we call this perfectly, once again, elastic supply. Very good. So let's draw another one. We'll try to be symmetrical now. I'll try to draw a straight line. to see if I can get this properly drawn. A supply curve is sloping upward, right? Because as price increases, quantity demand also increases. So we're sloping it. I'm going to try and draw a straight line to the center like this. I'll call this S. I don't know if that's straight enough, but hopefully it works. But what we need to do is to get an equal side for the two. And I think this is equal enough. This is P1 and this is P2. So this is supply Q1 and this is Q2. It simply means as price increase, supply of goods and services also increase. That simply means, and we call this unitary elastic supply, unitary elastic supply. Okay, so we're done with this. Now let's talk about other parts too, or other types of supply. Once again, this is P and this is Q. Note that the supply curve is sloping upward, right? So what if it is a bit steep like this? So here we have a price here, and we have another price here. Look at the gap. This is P1 and this is P2. This is Q1 and this is Q2. Of course, you can see the gap here between P1 and P2, and between Q1 and Q2. Which one is bigger? The gap between P1 and P2 is much, much bigger. Therefore, this means that a greater change in price will only lead to a small change in supply. And we call this fairly inelastic. Fairly inelastic supply. Contrary to that, we can also have, this is P and this is Q, and supply curve is also still sloping the same way, but now in a much more steeper form. We have S, so here we have P1 and we have Q1. Now, here we have P2, wherever it intersects, we have Q2. And look at the gap between P1 and P2 with Q1 and Q2. You can see that the size here is bigger than the price there. Therefore, this will be called fairly elastic supply. So what this simply means is that when price changes, supply will also change. Because we learned the factors that affect supply, which means that when the price of any commodity changes, people will supply more of it or less of it, depending on what direction the price changes. And the main thing you need to know that the law of supply says that an increase in price, if price goes up, will always lead to what? An increase in supply. And if the price goes down, it will definitely lead to a decrease in supply. This is the normal law of supply. And this explains why if you own a shop and you sell books and you sell pens, and if the price of, let's say this, you sell books now. So if the price of book increases and the price of, let's say, your pen does not increase, so this price goes down, it's only logical for you to sell more of the one the price is going up and sell less of the one the price is going down, because the goal of that is for you to make more profits. And this is why you are starting a business in the first place. So you want to sell more books because the price is going up and sell less of pens to make more profits. So I think we understand this so far, but let us test our knowledge on what we've learned so far and see if we can still get all the concept back with some questions. Number one, what is supply in economics? Like, what is supply? We did this from the beginning of our presentation. So is it the amount of a good or consumers are willing to buy? Is it the cost of producing one commodity? Is it the relationship between supply and income? Is it the quantity of a good producers are willing and able to sell at different prices? Not because it's the longest thing there, but it's the correct one. Number two, which of the following is a factor affecting supply? So we have factors listed. We have consumer preferences. We have price of related goods. We have government policies. and we have all of the above, and the answer is all of the above. These are things that affect supply. Government policy does, consumer preferences does, because you have to know your consumer before you produce goods and services. There's a saying in economics, I think by Baptist Say, it says that every supply creates its own demand, and every demand creates its own supply. So when you supply goods and services, somebody will have to buy. And when people demand for it, of course, you have to make them. So when you look at your consumer preferences, that's one of the reasons why you started business in the first place. Number 3, what happens to the supply curve when production cost decreases? When the cost of producing goods and services falls, what happens to the supply curve? So, of course, we all know that it's going to shift to the right. It's not going to shift to the left, it's going to shift to the right. We have what we call a movement along supply curve, and we have a shift in supply. That's when price is the same, but other factors are changing, like production cost or cost of technology or government policies. Number 4, a supply schedule shows the relationship between what and what. Is it between price and supply? Is it between price and quantity supplied? Is it between cost and quantity supplied, or between cost and price? Of course, your guess is as good as mine. The answer is between price and quantity supplied. So a supply schedule is a diagram, is a graph, or I don't want to call it a graph, let's call it a table. It's actually a table that is in rows and columns showing the relationship, or how connected or how related are price to each supply at different levels. Very good. So number 5 is, which of the following is an example of joint supply? Is it bread and butter? Is it gasoline and Vaseline? Is it wheat and corn? Or is it beef and leather? Okay, good. The answer is beef and leather. Of course, the picture was there earlier. You can make reference to that. Okay, number 6 is, what type of supply exists when an increase in supply of one good leads to a decrease in supply of another? In supplying one thing, you have to supply less of the other, and that is what we call competitive supply, because they are competing for the supply. If you supply one of this, you have to supply less of this. If you produce more of this, you have to produce less of that. Okay, very good. And number 7, if the supply equation is given as QS equals 40 plus 3P, what is the quantity supplied when the price is 10 naira? So what you need to do is 10 naira is the price, and P stands for price. So you substitute 10 into P rather, and that will be 3 times 10 will be 30. So 40 plus 30 will give us 70. And why do we have this sign right here? It's a positive sign. It shows that there's a positive relationship between price and quantity supplied. So as price goes up, like I said earlier, quantity supply will always go up. So number 8, a vertical supply curve represents what exactly? We drew that graph earlier, and the graph tells us that it is a perfectly inelastic supply curve. Vertical is upward, horizontal is going forward. Number 9, what happens to the supply of a product if a subsidy is given to producers? You know what a subsidy is? That is a value or money given to producers to reduce the cost of production, or it's like an amount of money given to reduce the price of a good or service. So we were all here when the government removed subsidy from petrol. It simply means we are now paying the full price for petrol. So petrol was formerly a certain value before. When government removed that subsidy, the price shoot up. So that means that when government gives subsidy to any product or any business or anything at all, subsidizes it, reduces the price of that thing. So the answer to that would be, it increases. And the last question is, if the price elasticity of supply is greater than 1, supply is said to be what? What exactly? And we all know that will be it's elastic. Another word for this is fairly elastic. So we've fairly learned something today, and we've learned a lot. And I hope we can take a break now and come back to more information or more concepts in economics.